The last time that I attended this conference was a little bit over a year ago, and actually I was sat where you're sat today. So I was a customer at the time, and I ran IT operations for Credit Suisse's wealth management business. And AppDynamics made a huge impact on our business. So for me, it's a real awesome opportunity to be standing here on the other side and to be talking to you at such an exciting time in AppDynamics' journey. I want to thank you all for being here, to our customers, to our partners, and also to those of you who are discovering AppDynamics for the first time. I hope that you really take away a lot from this conference today. So John talked before about the need for us as technologists to be agents of transformation. And you may be asking yourself, why is that? I think this statement holds true. And that's that every business is a software business. Software's become so pervasive in the way that we run our lives and the way that we run our businesses that it's actually at the core of what we do. And that's the case whether you're an airline, whether you're a manufacturer, or you run a bank. Without software, your business would cease to exist. So that means that software has got to be at the core of the change that we drive. Software's got to be at the core of us being agents of transformation. But how is it that you become an agent of transformation? And how is it that AppDynamics can help? So we've built a blueprint. It's a framework. It's a reference guide for you to understand what you need to do to become that agent of change, that agent of transformation. And John talked before about how you've got to see things differently. And one of the first things he talked about was how you've got to take an outside-in approach. Well, if you're a digital business, taking an outside-in approach means the first thing you need to focus on is your users and the experience that they're having. The next thing you need to focus on is if you're driving transformation, outcomes is really important. You've got to make sure you know where you want to get to. Then, within that, I think there's three things that you need to think about to drive user experience and outcomes. The first is real-time intelligence, because you need access to data to be able to make decisions in real time. The second is performance, because if you're a digital business, performance is absolutely key. You have to work. And the third is automation, because the more predictable, the more automated you can make your outcomes, the more you can really start to focus on what's important for you. So we're going to start deep diving into these, and the first one I'm going to focus on is real-time intelligence. So this is really about having access to data when you need it. It's about having access to data to make decisions. Data on things like application performance, business outcomes, user experience. Because when you've got access to that data, you can start answering questions such as, how is application performance impacting business performance? What's the customer impact of an outage? What's the customer impact of my technology? And is my release driving business value? AppDynamics provides a single unified platform where we truly correlate application performance, business outcomes, and user experience, and help you understand the answer to these questions. And to show you that, I'd like to move over to a demo. So I'd like to welcome on stage Solution Engineer James Mills. Hi, James. Thanks for joining us. So James, whilst I was on the way to the conference this morning, I experienced a technology performance problem. Highly convenient, I know, but bear with me. So you see, James, AppDynamics is a very innovative business, and that means that we run a lot of side businesses. One of these businesses is a fictitious company called AD1. It's an e-commerce platform. So I was trying to use it today on the way to this conference, and I was trying to enter a discount code on the pop-up functionality at checkout. And actually, it took so long, I almost gave up. So I'm hoping you can help me figure out, was I the only person with this problem, and what was the cause?
Absolutely. So thank you very much for the introduction, Firaas. And firstly, I'd like to apologize on behalf of AD1. That's certainly not the experience that we'd like our VIP customers to experience when they're using our application. So I'm going to take on the role of an AD DevOps manager for AD1. And something that's really important to me is being able to monitor in real time each and every component that makes up my AD1 application. And we can see here on this particular dashboard that AppDynamics is monitoring the health of our browser, the health of our mobile applications for those of the users that are logging in on iOS and Android. And we're also using AppDynamics' new IoT agent to monitor our point-of-sale systems. We can also see on this dashboard a conversion funnel. And a conversion funnel, to me, is really important because not only does it show me the performance of my application, it also shows me the customer journey. And that's really important because I want to be able to understand at each and every step, where are my users converting through our process. And we can see here that Firaas mentioned we had an issue with our pop-up transaction. We can see here that as a result of that performance impact, we've actually lost 78% of our customers, which is not very good at all. AppDynamics has been integrated into the CI and CD pipeline of AD1. And we can see here that my development team have pushed out a new version. And unfortunately, that's had a negative impact on the user experience. We can also see that a health rule has been generated in AppDynamics for our browser, and that's represented by the red circle. So let's drill down and understand what was happening. This takes us directly into the end user monitoring within AppDynamics, and I'm able to see a huge amount of detail that's really useful to me as a DevOps manager. I'm able to understand the response time of each and every user that logs in to AD1. I can then segment that based on device, as well as browser and location. In this particular example, we can see that 50% of our users are having a really good experience with AD1, less than a second, which I'm sure you'll agree is a pretty fast response for an application. But we can also see that 10% of our users are having a really bad experience, nearly 7 seconds. And as a customer myself of AD1, if I noticed the response time like that, I'd probably drop off. We can also see that the UK has turned a slightly darker shade of blue, and AppDynamics has automatically worked out there's a number of issues from the UK. Let's drill down and understand what was happening for those users logging in from the UK. So this takes us to our geo dashboard, and we're able to see that across the world, most of our application platforms are working really, really well, and our users are having a really good experience. But unfortunately, and as Firaas mentioned on the way here, we've seen a significant issue based in the UK, and red generally means that something is turning bad. So what AppDynamics does, as I mentioned, it traces every single user interaction on our AD1 application. And when we identify that something has gone wrong, we capture a detailed browser snapshot. So let's drill down and start looking at some of those snapshots from the UK. So what we can see in this particular screen is we've got a number of browser snapshots. And in fact, on that particular dashboard I showed you first, our response times were between 1 second and 6 seconds. But in this list, we've got a number of customers that had a response time of 19 seconds, which just isn't good enough based on the competitive market that AD1 is in. If we drill down into one of these snapshots, we can then start to diagnose the problem. So I can immediately see this is a two-pronged problem as this particular transaction. As represented by the orange bar, we've got a significant latency on the server side. And we've also got an amount of time being spent on the client side delivering content to our page. Let's drill down into that green bar and see how that's made up. By clicking on the Resource Details tab, AppDynamics has automatically correlated the types of resources that were being loaded on that particular page and the domains that are being requested. In our resource waterfall, we're able to tie those two pieces of information together. And we can see we've got a number of resources that are being loaded from our CDN. And for those of you not familiar with a CDN, my development team use a content delivery network to ensure that content is loaded locally to where our users are logging in from. And we can see here that our CDN in the UK has got an issue, and it's taking nearly 8 seconds for those pieces of content to load. So armed with that data from AppDynamics, I can go and create a ticket with my CDN provider and tell them that they're not meeting the SLAs that I expect. If I jump back into that summary tab, we can see here that AppDynamics has automatically correlated the browser request with a transaction snapshot. So we've got that end-to-end visibility in a single platform and in a single UI. So if we drill down into one of these transaction snapshots, let's have a look what's happening from a back-end perspective. So we can see here that everything that this particular transaction touched as part of the architecture, including calls out to your databases and your third-party APIs. And we've even managed to pick up the specific browser that the user has logged in from. I won't spend too much time on this particular screen. A lot of you will have seen this before, and my colleague Mark will run a fantastic demo afterwards. But I just wanted to highlight how quick and easy was it to see an issue on our AD1 pop-up page, and we've correlated a front-end performance issue and a back-end performance issue. So my development team are absolutely fantastic, probably why I hired them, and they've pushed out a new release of AD1. And the business are asking me, is there a way that we can validate, not only from a performance perspective, but also from a business perspective, has this been a positive release? And this dashboard exactly shows that. We're able to see, in real time, the comparisons of version 1 and version 2. And the two KPIs that I'm really interested in is we've positively increased the amount of users that have converted through our process, and we've drastically improved the amount of revenue that's being generated as part of version 2. And Firaas, you'll be pleased to hear we've managed to identify that issue with the pop-up transaction, and we've managed to fix it. So hopefully you can log back in and process that particular order. And finally, another use case that the business are asking me for, is there a way within AppDynamics that we can correlate end-to-end business processes and provide a timing? And using AppDynamics' new business journeys functionality, we're able to tie together individual business transactions and provide end-to-end timings. So now I can go back to the business with confidence and tell them, I know exactly how long it takes one of our users to log into our homepage and ultimately to transact with AD1.
So there you saw how AppDynamics...
Hey, Firaas, sorry to interrupt you. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could see in real time each and every customer that was impacted today?
That would be cool. Let's see it.
So on this particular dashboard, we're able to see that Firaas is a massive big spender and is one of our VIP customers. He's at the top of our list on these abandoned users. But not only are we looking at each and every user that was impacted when we had a performance problem, we're able to identify the amount of revenue that was at risk, as well as the type of items that they were purchasing and whereabouts they've come in from based on location. Not only can we download this data and send this to the business and the marketing teams so they can go and run a successful win-back campaign, we can provide them a live view and a dashboard so they can log in and see this data automatically in real time as soon as it happens.
Awesome. I think this is really cool. So this is how AppDynamics not only helps you manage your technology performance, but it can actually be a business driver. It can be a driver of growth and a driver of revenue capture. So I think that demo was awesome, and there's a few things that I really want to cover that we went through there. The first is we showed you how AppDynamics can show you real-time business performance. So how we can show you data about things like revenue, about things like the number of customers, about things like customer churn. Next, we showed you how AppDynamics can help you monitor user experience, and we can monitor that not only for an individual user down to a device, but we can help you segment that. So in this case, we were able to isolate this issue down to an issue affecting UK users only and get on top of it quickly. Next, we showed you how AppDynamics can enable continuous delivery, because we can show you multiple releases and how they impact technology and business performance. And that means that you can release faster with confidence because you understand immediately what the impact is of your release. And then finally, we showed you one of the newest features of our product, Business Journeys. And we showed you how you can string together multiple different business transactions and start to understand the end-to-end business process, the business journey that your users are going on. And in this case, we showed you how pop-up was where we started to see that churn. And again, we were able to identify an issue quickly and correct it. So I think that was an awesome demo, James. Thank you very much. And hey, thanks for fixing my problem with AD1. So that was real-time intelligence. That was how do you use real-time data to be able to make decisions quickly. The next thing that I want to focus on is performance. And performance is fascinating because something fundamentally has changed about expectations of performance over the last few years. When I started my last job with Credit Suisse, it was about 10 years ago, When we had a problem, for example, that impacted online banking, our consumers' expectations was that they would go to a call center or they would go to a branch. And that was okay, because this was a time before consumer apps. This was a time before Uber, before WhatsApp, before Android, in fact, maybe even the iPhone. Today, this is the expectation of your customers. 250 milliseconds is how long it takes to conduct a search on Google. That's to type in 3 or 4 keywords for Google to scour billions of web pages and come back to you with a prioritized list of 10 results. That's quicker than the blink of an eye. This is the new norm. This is your competition. This is what you're competing against. The problem is, delivering that level of exceptional performance is hard. And it's hard because as those customer expectations are rising, so have the complexities within our environment. Because we've got more applications than before. We've got more application components. We've got microservices. We've got multi-cloud. We've got more dependencies. And through that, those digital disruptors that we talked about are driving better expectations for performance. They're also driving newer and faster functionality than ever before. So that means that to compete with them, you need to release faster. You need to look at things like continuous delivery and DevOps. And that drives your complexity even further. Since AppDynamics was founded 10 years ago, we've relied on one single unit of measure. It's the measure of a business transaction, the measure of the single interaction that your customer has with your system through millions of lines of code and back up again. It's that view of application performance from the lens of the user that enables our customers to deliver exceptional performance in the blink of an eye. I want to show one example of a customer who's achieved great success of driving digital transformation using AppDynamics. And I'm going to show you this video. This is Carhartt.
In the retail space, it used to be about you discover a product by going into a store. Today, you learn about a product on Instagram. We see the industry is changing so fast. The speed at which things operate are not like they were even just 5 years ago. Here at Carhartt, everybody prides themselves on being part of a company that is dedicated to the hardworking consumer, and that really shows through in everything that happens here.
The digital-first economy has really enabled us to connect with our end consumer, but it comes with the caveat that we've got to have a great user experience. We can't jeopardize the brand recognition and the brand quality that we have.
In this industry, when customers complain, that means some customers haven't complained, and you've lost that revenue. We didn't have real-time monitoring or performance management. We had slowness on orders, and we wouldn't have known about that problem until customers started complaining to the help desk.
We wanted to take a look at our application monitoring and our server monitoring. What we found was we were reporting out metrics around uptime that were not really reliable for the business. We were saying we were up 99, 4.9s, 5.9s. Problem is that from a business process standpoint, we weren't really up.
For Carhartt, relationships are a big driver in how we do business. And it became really clear that AppDynamics had that right culture to work with Carhartt, that sense of urgency and what was the art of the possible, so to speak.
We were able to identify 4 or 5 key business transactions that were key to business process and business metrics, whether it was inventory related, order related, checkout related.
Doing a lot of the work with AppDynamics on putting in the monitoring capability, we were now taking the next step, which was Business IQ. Business IQ provides a vehicle for both business colleagues and the IT colleagues to collaborate together on a single source of the truth, not only business metrics, but IT system metrics, so that we're operating from the same point of view.
Cyber Monday, we were sitting in a conference room with our AppD business dashboard, real time, seeing how we were tracking for the day. Hey, we just pushed out a new ad. Are we seeing response? Yeah, we just saw visitors jump. We had an issue with orders dropping to our back-end system, and we were able to see it as it was happening and react to it before it ever impacted user experience. And that was a first for us. For Carhartt, we have a theme: we outwork them all. And as IT, we want to support that. It's about how can we work smarter? How can we work faster? How can we work better? With AppDynamics, they can help us outwork them all.
So I want to thank John and Donovan for that awesome insight and for sharing their insight into how to drive business change and how AppDynamics helped them. And actually, I want to congratulate John, who was on that video, John Hill from Carhartt, whose vision that you saw there nominated him for CIO of the Year of one of the CIO 100 this year in 2018. I think that's an awesome example of how you can drive not only acceleration of your business goals, but you can accelerate your career by driving business change. I think that's awesome. So that video covered a lot, and there's three things that I want to focus on. The first is that John mentioned that when customers complained, it was indicative that there was many other customers that hadn't complained, and that meant that they'd lost money. And this is something that we hear from business leaders every day, that when users are complaining about an issue, it's going to be indicative of a much larger issue, and you need to get ahead of that. The second thing is that Donovan mentioned that using AppDynamics, they were able to simplify their complex technology processes, their complex business processes, down into the 4 or 5 key business transactions that mattered, the 4 or 5 key metrics that really mattered for them. And the third is that John mentioned that Business IQ provided them the platform where they had a single source of truth for both business and for technology performance. And when they had that, that meant that everyone was moving in the same direction, whether you were looking at server performance, whether you're looking at performance of code, or whether you're looking at the performance of customers through your website. Carhartt isn't the only one, because we simplify complexity in the world's largest enterprises. In fact, we thrive in complexity. And my message to you as agents of transformation is it's your role to go back to your businesses and start to understand how you can simplify the complexity within your businesses. One of the ways in which AppDynamics has helped drive the simplification of complexity and that we continue to focus on is giving you deeper technology visibility than ever before. Recently, we announced our ability, in conjunction with IBM, to support mainframe monitoring within AppDynamics. So we provide end-to-end visibility inside the mainframe for you to be able to start understanding how performance follows all the way through within the subsystems. This is an industry first. So there's no other platform that IBM integrates that monitoring with. And most recently, we announced support for SAP applications. So if you've got SAP applications within your business, we will now enable you to see the end-to-end performance of those on your flow map, but we'll also give you code-level visibility of the ABAP coding language. This is SAP's coding language. And again, this is an industry first. There is no other platform on the market that enables you to do this. So if you've got IBM's mainframe or if you've got SAP applications within your environment, I encourage you to speak to our experts today. You'll see them dotted around outside, and go and ask them, speak to them about how we can go and help. Now, simplifying complexity isn't just about traditional architectures, because this is one of the hottest topics that everyone's talking about and that many of us are involved with today, and it's moving to the cloud. One thing that's become very apparent to us when we speak to business leaders is over the last 12 months, most business leaders have made an active and deliberate decision to become a multi-cloud business. In fact, you could say that multi-cloud has become the new operating model. And that means that businesses are using a mixture of public cloud, private cloud, platform as a service to drive their businesses. The problem that we have as technologists is it's actually very difficult for us to enable that because we've got to get involved in the business of cloud migration. And that isn't just lifting and shifting applications. There's 2 things that you really need to be focused on here. And the first is before you move, you need to understand the dependencies of your applications. And as we've seen before, there's so much complexity today that that's really difficult to get to do right. You also need to understand who's using your platform and how are they using your platform. And at this stage, you have to be 100% certain that you know what you're doing, because the tiniest dependency that you miss out can make the entire migration go wrong. The second step that's really important is after the move, you need to validate that your move worked well. And that's not purely a technical validation. You need to make sure that you didn't adversely affect the business outcomes that you were trying to drive. And when cloud migrations have challenges, you need to know immediately, and you need to start to be able to fix those challenges quickly as well. So we're going to move on to another demo. And I want to show how AppDynamics can enable your cloud migration. So I'd like to welcome Solution Engineer Mark Bubien. So, Mark, whilst I was talking then, I've been radioed, and apparently Twitter's going wild about a technology performance problem. I know. We have another fictitious business as an innovative company called AD Financial. It's a financial global services solutions provider, and apparently people are having real difficulty trying to use it. So I'm hoping you can help us figure out what's going wrong and what do we need to do to try and fix it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Firaas. So, like many of you here today, AD Financial have actually started embedding AppDynamics into a lot of their key business processes. And it's being used on a daily basis by IT and operations teams. So, they're actually aware of this production issue that Firaas has just mentioned. Now, over the last few weeks, they've seen a large increase in the number of users of their application. And they think that the problem they're seeing is down to a scale. So, what we're looking at here is a custom dashboard that AD Financial have created themselves. In the top left-hand corner, you can see some of the business transactions that make up one of the key user journeys within AD Financial, as well as some KPIs for 3 of these business transactions. Now, underneath, we see the health of the individual microservices that make up AD Financial. The red rings around get quote and process trade business transactions denote that there's been health rule violations in the period that we're looking at. And because process trade is one of the key business drivers within AD Financial, it's somewhere we want to go and start our investigation. So we click into it, and those of you who are familiar with AppDynamics will recognize this application flow map. Now, our lightweight application agents will tag and trace every business transaction through your application and build out this real-time view of the topology of your application. So it totally removes the need for having to go and maintain those complex Visio diagrams. Now, in the case of this process trade business transaction, we can see that we've got a couple of Java services speaking out to a MySQL database. Now, AppDynamics will create a baseline of what's normal for every business transaction at a certain time of the day of the week, and time of the month. Every time it sees an execution of this business transaction, it will go and score that against that baseline as normal, slow, very slow, stalled, or errored. Now, when somebody comes to you and says, I got an error page within the application, there's a problem, it's so easy to open up the logs, find a stack trace, and go and fix it. When somebody comes to you and says, your application is running slowly, that's so difficult to find the root cause of, and it's such a subjective concept. So what we do when we see a problem like this and something running slowly, we take a nice detailed snapshot of what's going on within your application at that point in time. So what we see here is every transaction within the time frame that is run slowly compared to that dynamic baseline. If we take this one up here, for example, it took around 25 seconds to execute. The flow map we see is specific to this one instance of this business transaction that occurred at 9:20. We've listed some potential issues down the side as well. So level 1 support teams can quickly get those sent out to the right teams without any underlying knowledge of your application and without having to involve other teams on a costly war room call. And if we click into one of these application services here, we can see 3 calls into this service. And we'll take this one from the web front end. And what we show you is every method of code that's been executed across the whole business transaction and timings for each. So DevOps teams can quickly get down to the root cause of the issue and any bottlenecks within the code. Now, in this example, we've actually got the main worker thread in the application has spawned 2 threads underneath. But it's waiting for them to finish executing before it goes and continues the execution of the business transaction. And as we get more and more users into AD Financial, this is causing our scale issue. Now, another key IT initiative within AD Financial, like a lot of you out there today, is cloud migration, specifically into AWS for these guys. But before they do so, they want to understand dependencies on an infrastructure and a network level, because sometimes it can be the smallest things that cause the biggest issues. So if we go to the application flow map, and what we can see here is the Java services which we saw within the process trade business transaction. We've also added in some Node.js services as well, and automatically detected calls out to some MongoDB instances. And if we flick across to the network dashboard, what we see here is every network component within your application. Now, the approach we take to network monitoring at AppDynamics is to alert you on performance-impacting events on your network that go and have a knock-on effect on your application performance. So I want to jump in the AppDynamics DeLorean, take a step forward in time, and we go post-cloud migration into AWS. Now, on the flow map, you'll notice there's still a degradation of the order processing and quote services, Java services, but we also see this new application is being monitored by AppDynamics. It's AD Financial Cloud. Now, what our developers have gone and done is migrated some of the key business processes within AD Financial into this new cloud-based application, and are directing some of the traffic over to this application. And if we click into this application, we can see they've added a couple of message queues to go and handle the extra load that's coming in. But we've also automatically discovered AWS instances, such as these S3 storage instances and DynamoDB instances. And it's not just AWS we've got support for. We also support Pivotal Cloud Foundry, Red Hat OpenShift, and Microsoft Azure. So within this one platform, you can monitor your whole application environment, whether it's hosted on-premise, in the cloud, or a hybrid of the two.
Awesome. So Mark, we saw there how we can validate the technical migration, but how is it that we validate the business side of the migration like I talked about before?
Sure. So the guys over at AD Financial actually create another custom dashboard, and this one is to go and compare the performance of the application pre-migration and post-migration. And we can see from the numbers here that we vastly increased the trade volume in this new version of the application. We've also massively increased the conversion rates of people logging on and going through and processing a trade. And we can see that the average response time across the application is incredibly small compared to what it was before. So we can validate on a technical and on a business level that this migration has indeed been a success.
Awesome. So again, there was a lot to cover in that demo, but let's summarize the main points that we went through. The first is that we showed you how AppDynamics can automatically discover dependencies, and we do that in real time, both on the cloud and on-premise. So we can start immediately showing you as things change. Next, we showed you how you can see through a single pane of glass how your technology and your business is performing. And again, that doesn't matter whether you're on-premise or which cloud provider you're with. We showed you how we can diagnose issues using AppDynamics. And in this case, whilst we're performing a cloud migration, we were able to go and find out that there was a specific application that had contention and prioritize that for the migration. And finally, we showed you how AppDynamics can prove the business value of your cloud migration, because not only are we showing you that you've performed the technical migration, we're also showing you that you achieved the business outcomes that you wanted to as well. So I think cloud migration is such a hot topic for all of us. And again, I would really encourage you, if this is an active topic within your business, within your day job, then please go and speak to our experts today and ask them how we can help. So I'm going to hand back over to John Rakowski in a short moment. But before we do that, I have something special to show you. We've talked a lot today about complexity, and we've talked a lot about how you've got to go and drive performance through complexity. That includes predicting and preventing problems quicker so that they don't impact your business. Last year, we acquired a company called Perspica. It was the first acquisition that we made since we were part of Cisco. And we acquired them because they were the world leader in IT operations, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And they came with 28 of the world's experts in machine learning and artificial intelligence for IT operations. So 3 days ago, we got the first view of the concepts that we're working on from our engineers. And that's how we can use machine learning and AI to start driving, firstly, quicker root cause, but secondly, also driving predictive and starting to figure out when outages are going to happen. And we wanted to get this in front of you guys today. So this is the first time we've ever demoed this in public. This is the direction in which AppDynamics is going. It's a concept of what we're going to do to integrate AI into our product. And I'm going to hand back over to Mark to show you that.
Thanks, Firaas. So I have to say, I'm super excited about this, because as an ex-developer myself, one of the biggest problems I always faced was finding the root cause of an issue quickly. I always used to say it takes 2 hours to find the problem, usually 2 minutes to fix it. So we're all familiar with this flow map. We've seen a few of them throughout the keynote. And I showed you a minute ago how you can go within 3 clicks to drilling down into the root cause of a production issue. But what if you could do it with 1 click? So what we can see here up in the top right-hand corner is this concept of an anomaly. Now in AppDynamics, what we're introducing as an anomaly is a machine-learned deviation away from the normal performance of your application. And let's go in and let's try and investigate one of these. So the concept that's been passed over to us by the guys at Perspica And the first thing you're going to notice here is how simple that flow map is. We're only showing you the components of your application that are either impacted by or the cause of an emerging performance issue. Down the side, we've also learnt the top 3 suspected causes of that issue. And if we go and hover over each of them, we can see each of the components that have been affected by that performance issue. We can drill down, in this case, into this inventory services issue. And what we see here, in simple, easy-to-read language, that it's actually a CPU issue on one of our nodes. It's affecting 102 of our nodes in inventory services. We can go and have a look at the KPIs for those nodes down there. But what we do is we correlate that with the real-time impact on the impacted business transaction. In this case, our checkout business transaction. And show you all the KPIs that go along with that checkout. Now, we've spoken throughout the whole keynote about this one source of unified monitoring from the front end all the way through to the back end. Well, in this one screen, we have the impact all the way across your application. And now, at the very top of the screen as well, we're introducing on this concept a status bar that shows you right from the beginning of the emerging production issue all the way through the escalation. Now, the benefit of this being that support teams can quickly go in when they see an issue like this in future, and they can understand what was done to try and fix it in the previous time. And like I said, I'm super excited about this because I really do believe that machine learning is the future of application monitoring.
Awesome, thanks, Mark. So I think this is incredible because this is artificial intelligence guiding you to the root cause. This is AI getting you quicker to the heart of the problem and starting to predict when you're going to have a problem. And that's how you start to truly drive performance as complexity gets more and more. So I'm going to hand over to John in a second. And really, there's a couple of points that I wanted to cover today. I mentioned to you that last time I was at this conference, I was on your side of the stage. And I've attended a number of conferences like this before. There's 3 things that I think you should do today. The first is listen to what people have got to say in the various sessions, because you'll learn a lot, not just about AppDynamics, but you'll learn about what people are doing in the industry today. You'll learn about what's changing the industry, and you'll be able to go and take that back to drive change within your business. The second is go and speak to our experts. We're all here to help. I'm around today, John's around, Luke's around. We've got a bunch of different people around that you'll see walking around to help you. Speak to them and ask them about your business problems. We're here to support you. And the last piece is the most important piece for me, because you're in a room surrounded by people that are dealing with the same business problems that you have, and you all have a common interest because you're here. The people around you are the people that are going to help accelerate your business, but they're also the people that are going to help accelerate your career. So spend the time networking with them. Like Luke said, if you need a little bit of lubricant to help, we've got beers later on, and that's a good chance to be able to meet with people as well. But do please network with each other, get to know each other, talk about your problems, and see how you can help each other.